Hello everyone, as you're joining us, I am just going to see if we can get live on YouTube before I actually hand over to the fabulous Paula and Gus. So just bear with me. How are you doing, Paula?
I'm doing great. How are you, Rosemary?
Oh, so well, you could not imagine.
Yeah, I'm liking that Gus has turned into Paula.
I do, two Paulas. Well, two Paulas are always better than one, aren't they?
Gus might disagree with that.
Bear with me.
Have I got sound? Can you hear me? Because I tapped the button. I'm not sure if you can hear me now.
Yes,
can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
That doesn't like. Okay. For some reason it doesn't like the password. So if we're not able to do it, I will try one more time, and then we're just going to go straight in because we have got people waiting. So.
Sure. Yeah. Oh yeah, 7 in the bottom there. Yeah. 8. Yeah. So the participants at the bottom are going up.
Yeah. Well, you know, people take a little bit of time to come in, so it doesn't look as if it likes it today. So I'm just going to carry on.
Okay, go for it.
So welcome everybody to our latest Think Tree Hub weekly wellbeing session. As said, today we've got the lovely Paula and Gus from Safe to Move, and they're really going to be showing you and explaining simple tricks to keep your lymph system healthy, because we now know more than ever this is one of the key things that you can do in order to stay well, and in general to stay well in your life, without exception, in fact. So Paula's got a background in sports science, advanced coaching, and Gus too's got a very sporty background. So if you want personal training, yeah, they're there for you. They're for you. But they run Safe to Move. They've got some fantastic workshops that are on running. So do go and have a look at their website. You also find them on Facebook and Insta. So that is Safe to Move. And I am going to hand you right over to Paula and Gus right now.
Okay, now I was going to start sharing my screen if I can. Yeah, just give me a second. I'll get this up. Okay. Ready. Slideshow from current. Let's go. Right, and we're going to go straight in. So welcome everybody. Great to see you here. This is our second one today, and so we're getting into a little bit of a flow here, and that word's quite key considering we're talking about lymph and how lymph flows. And lymph is something that you kind of know the name of. You know, we know our muscles, we know our bones, we know a lot of our other physiology, and an awful lot more. But people don't really sort of focus on lymph unless they've had a reason to focus on it, like they've had an illness or something going on that's brought their attention to the lymph system within their body. But it's really, really key. And Gus and I are going to sort of dual teach this and get some sort of top tips across really, really quickly. So it's quite what we describe is a basic explanation. It's not quite a therapist explanation. It's one, so we've got a few tips and tricks, a little bit of practical, and then some ideas about food and some ideas about the top things that you can do to maintain your lymph because there's a limit we can do in 30 minutes flat. So here we go. Great to see you here, and thank you for joining us. So as a practitioner, what we're looking for is a number of things when we're asking questions is, you know, are you struggling with fatigue or brain fog, or just start to feel a little bit sort of apathy, I think would be the word that I'm after. Or when you think about where you're at with yourself, that you feel like you have less energy than you as an individual normally would have. I'm a high energy person, so if my skill ability and my energy goes down, then I feel the need to sort of sleep and start doing distraction activities. It usually involves the PlayStation and things like that, instead of getting on with what I should do. And that's when I know my lymph system is just a little bit off, and I'll start to, reach to some fresh water and get some H2O going and get moving, to be honest. But so things that we're looking for are fatigue. We talk about swollen glands, but actually when we talk about swollen glands, it's swollen lymph nodes actually within key areas of the body. puffiness in the eyes or face, sort of like hamster cheek type look, you know, around this area, or you wake up in the morning, if you've got allergies and things, you might notice you have sort of puffiness around the eyes. Swelling in the fingers, i.e. sort of tight rings or even toe rings. I know, you know, people wear those too. So if you have tightness in the fingers or tightness around the toes, it's also a sign that you could be having sort of poor lymph drainage. Feelings of bloating, loss of appetite, holding on to water, still going to the toilet a lot for, you know, number ones and weeing, but noticing that you're a little bit fluidy. And that can be found out really easily if you just put a little bit of pressure into your skin, hold it, and then let go. And what should happen is the skin should bounce back straight away. If it doesn't, it leaves like a thumbprint in there, and then sort of comes back a bit like a sofa seat that you've been sat on for too long. You know, when a sofa gets a bit old and you get out of it, it leaves a sort of an indent. It doesn't mine anyway. So what will happen is it'll stay in. And that's a good sign that you've got over sort of fluid bulk that in the area. So I can see you all doing that now. I can check that out. See if it springs back and you've got some elasticity there. If you haven't, chances are you're not draining your lymph quite as well as you could be doing. So bloating, holding on to water. Headaches are very commonly related to lymph problems as well, because we're getting, it's a little bit too much pressure around the cranial area or the skull. Sinus infections, incredibly common. So you're starting to get pain under the eyes or pain in what we call the erythroid sinus, which is in between the eyes and deep in. It can produce a feeling like you've got a head full of stuffed socks. So on top of your fatigue and your brain fog and your puffiness and your swollen fingers and you're holding on to water and your headaches and your sinuses, if you've got all that together, you can pretty rubbish. Skin issues, dry and itchy skin also relate to lymph, and soreness and stiffness upon waking up. So if you notice that, you know, you say, well, it's just I'm getting a little bit older, that I wake up in the morning and need to spend, you know, 15 seconds or more sitting on the bedside contemplating life before I even think about standing or taking a step forward, or you notice that your ankle joints don't quite kick into gear on your first trip to the loo, then just, there's a good advice anyway, sort of sit on the edge of the bed and wait a few seconds anyway for blood pressure reasons, so you don't drop. And the doctors reported that quite commonly, that when people get up in the middle of the night and rush to the loo, they can often faint, which is not a good thing to do. So do check yourself first before you stand. But if that comes with aching in the joints and a feeling of stiffness all round, chances are that you've got some lymph issues going on. Can I ask if you have anything more to add to that?
Not really, no. I mean, you know, generally speaking, when you think of lymph as somebody having lymph issue, you immediately think of lymphedema, which is fair enough. It's one of the main issues. But I mean, these are all symptoms that as a practitioner that you would see on a daily basis almost. So you know, and sometimes the lymphatic system would be the last thing that you would think of really, when often it should be almost the first thing that you should think of. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, these are just little symptoms that me myself personally, that I haven't really, until I started looking into all these things, you know, about 12-18 months ago. These are little things that I would have never thought, well, let's check out the lymph system. So yeah, it's just one of those things you go, oh, okay, here's another way of looking at things.
So it's important to turn the spotlight in this direction, isn't it? I mean, I think we all agree on that. So yes, unexplained aches and pains, constipation is another, weight gain, extra belly fat that's not linked to our lockdown situation and our extra indulgence. Breast swelling, tenderness, yeah, a sense of fogginess, heightened allergies as well, food sensitivities, and often a presence of more colds and fevers and things just lingering around. Also suggests we've got a slightly compromised immune system. So what does it actually do? Well, on a simple level, it takes away waste and debris, what I call products of cell metabolism, and it drains it away, as in your blood supply would, you know, provide blood, you know, and all the nutrients to your entire body. The lymph system then will pick up the products from all of that process and what we call sort of, you know, aerobic ability and the use of ATP and lots of other sciencey things. But the side products of all of that often are quite toxic to the body. So the lymph system's there to transport that back away. And it's also there to drain excess fluids from what we would call the interstitium or the interstitium itself. Now, we're not going to go into the science of that, but it's basically the interstitium is a collective for, you know, all of the spaces and the gaps and everything that happens in the gaps within your body. Filtration, it's filtering all the time. So it's a bit like watching, if you've ever seen anybody on kidney dialysis, then you'll watch those 2 big bags of fluid filling up on the machine, because that's showing you exactly what the kidneys are filtering and how the body's filtering the fluid through. And that can add up to a filtration of over 200 litres in a day, which is absolutely bonkers. Transport clean fluid back to the bloodstream, and then the cycle starts again. So of course, naturally, if that's not working quite right, you can see you get a bit of stagnation, a bit of a sewage situation pretty quick. It also transports fats for the digestive system, which is why fatty liver is a first sign often that there's a lymph problem going on, especially where alcohol is not involved. Okay. Production, storage, maintenance, and distribution of lymphocytes. This is our immune system at work. These amazing cells called macrophages. It's a scientific lecture, it's not quite for now. They are constantly on guard, and as Gus often calls these, he calls these the bouncers. They're often sort of checking, sort of sees of like, is this thing allowed through? Is it not? The macrophage there to gobble up the viruses and the parasites and the bacteria within your system. And a free moving lymph produces a bit like one of those. Have you ever done one of those slides where fairy liquid, you throw yourself down on your stomach and slide along on it? It's that sort of ability to move and to flow. If the macrophage can get to what we call the pathogens, then we can make sure that our immune system is maintained and we can remove waste products away. So it also maintains normal blood volume and fluid balance. And we often notice that first in the ankles when things are starting to go a little bit weird. Wrists, ankles, neck. So interesting things, it's colorless, okay? Chyle is a milky color that contains fats. That's the lymphs that's produced within the digestive tract. It was discovered, although we think it's slightly earlier now, it's probably got something to do with Hippocrates, it always is.
Hippocrates, Hippocrates spoke about it in one of his works called On Joints, is one of his works, and he spoke about it in the 1st century, before Christ, BC. First century BC.
Way BC. Yeah. So 1627 is a sort of a more modern logging, really, but it's been forever. Yeah, follow the Greeks, they know what they're doing. Yeah. If all lymph vessels were placed end to end, it would circle around the globe 4 times, which is quite a long way. Except for the cartilage, nails, and hair, the entire body is bathed in lymph. It's a continuous bathing situation and a renewal situation. 700 to 800 nodes, okay? 700 to 800 lymph nodes are draining, filtering through a valve system. So literally the fluid comes up the lymph duct, it hits the valve, and the pressure opens the valve. And when the pressure gets high enough, the next gate opens and it pushes it very rapidly onwards to the more central duct. And a third of those, which is what we're going to focus on, we've only got 30 minutes, are found in the neck. And especially with the COVID-19, this is the health series for us all being, at home as such, or facing unusual circumstances. We want to demonstrate to you 2 methods. One, with someone's actually working on this sternocleider group. I'm going to go into this in a moment. And then because I'm going to demonstrate on somebody, so you've got more than one person in your house, and then I'll show you how to do it on yourself. But this will drain the SCM, which is really important. Okay. So the embryological side of it develops at week 5 out of the vascular system, week 5 in the embryo. So really early, really primal stuff, this. Okay. And if it stopped working, you've got about 2 days. So the same, you can't get air, you've got about however many minutes you could actually survive that. I heard someone survive for 18 minutes recently, that's incredible. But usually sort of 3 or 4 minutes and without air, not great. Same with lymph. If your lymph system goes bust, you've got 24 to 48 hours. And there's 15 litres in the body, which is 3 times more than your actual blood volume. So it's pretty key. Okay. Gus, do you want us to quickly do this little slide?
My work of art.
Just a quick run
so,
through.
If you look at that lovely picture that I created, if you look at the right side, the artery, so it's hydrostatic fluid, so the pressure of the blood leaving the heart, full of oxygen, loaded. Every time the heart beats, you have the blood pressure passing through the arteries. And what needs to happen is, in fact, we lose quite a lot of fluid through the cardiovascular system into the interstitial fluid. So every time the heart beats, the blood gets forced through. And as you can see there, water and proteins and some other nutrients will escape the cardiovascular system. So we actually lose fluid on a daily basis. About 20 liters gets lost during the day into the interstitial fluid. And what needs to happen is the lymphatic system, you can see the little green sort of a roadmap there. Yeah, that's your lymphatic vessels, and they need to filter the interstitial fluid to make space for those nutrients to leave the cardiovascular system. So if your lymphatic system can't clear space on the outside of the cardiovascular system, those nutrients and the proteins in the water and all those things can't leave the cardiovascular system to feed the cells. So so that happens on that side. Then once all the blood has been used and is making its way back up to the heart, then the blood is full of proteins, and what happens is all the smaller substances can get pushed through back into the venous system through osmosis, because the blood at that point has loads of protein in there, and so water and fluid will move from a low level of protein to a higher level. So it will suck it through. But what happens is if substances are too big and too large to enter the cardiovascular system again, those substances will get sucked up and hoovered up by the lymphatic system. So as you can see, due to that, it plays a massive part in blood pressure levels and regulating the blood pressure.
That's awesome. No, thanks, Gus. That's great. Right. So this is, very, very quickly, you can see that there are levels and it's integrated all the way through. That's the key point with this. So we can move on to practical side. So in the skin, you've got lymph vessels all the way through the skin, down to the next levels of fascia, and all the way through to the thoracic duct, basically. So it's all the way through, infiltrating everywhere, like tributaries of a river, basically. And these are some of the main organ systems are important to our lymph system as well. So starting at the top, we've got your tonsils, lots of lymph nodes around the cervical, your thymus, your spleen's really important. We haven't got time to go into the detail of it. And all the way through the guts, and a hell of a lot around the pelvic area as well. But we're going to focus on the next side of things. Okay. So when we're looking at this, don't worry about the big words. We're just going to demonstrate a drainage around this SCM. So this is what we would call one of the exit routes. And we want to open the exits first. So we're going to demonstrate a drainage around this big muscle here. If you sort of rotate your neck to the side, you can feel this big chunky muscle that's stabilizing your neck. And it's involved with so many roles in sort of rotation and flexion and extension of the neck. But for now, we're going to look at it from a lymph point of view. Gus, do you want to do a little practical there?
Yeah, let's see how this is going to work. Let's have a look.
Yeah, we've got 12 minutes in total.
We haven't practiced this live, so
this
we'll see how
is
it goes.
live, yeah.
So let's have a look and see if you can hold there.
Yeah.
Great. So we're going to start at the bottom end, as in just on top of the collarbone. What you need to do is open the exit first. So you work from the bottom up. So everything will be draining from the head down the neck into the thoracic ducts. Into the subclavian veins. So we need to drain from the bottom up so that you clear the path as you work your way up. And you just gently find the sternocleidomastoid down there. Maybe tilt it slightly that way, I think. And what you would do is very gently drain up. So you'll take skin slack towards the face and just gently drain. There's no pinching, it's very gentle, and just work your way down. The sternocleidomastoid muscle will make its way and wind its way back behind the ear slightly. So you just work your way up there, and then you can start the bottom again and just gently lift it so ever so slightly away from the neck as you just gently drain the way down. So most of the pressure, and there's not a lot of pressure because this is often very sensitive. So any draining that I'm doing down. So I'm doing down towards the subclavian veins and work my way around. Is that pretty clear?
That's really, really clear. So I'm going to continue on from there as well, because you can get someone to do this. A few key things here. It's really important that you don't put any pressure in here. And to say this is just for practice, it's not for therapist treatments or anything else. It's just for you to have a little go at home because we can't get access to things at the moment. So if you've got your thumb and your index finger, it's like a letter C. It should never really close into a letter O because that's too much pressure onto the nerves and the blood vessels in this area. So they pass out, not a good sign, right? So just make sure you've got a very, very gentle pressure on. And just like Gus is doing, he's going to just continue doing that, and I'll show you here as well. You've got two attachments here, an inside one or a medial one and an outside one or a lateral one. Pick up the lot, okay? And then you can gently lift that skin up with no pressure and push down and keep going. So it's a bit like milking a cow. And you go all the way up, all the way up, all the way up, all the way up until you hit the back of the ear. And once you hit the back of the ear, you can come back and you can repeat that. And once you've done one side, and just let me see that again, it's a letter C, not a letter O. And it's gently picking up there. Just have a little go on your own next, see if you can feel that. So you shouldn't feel any pain or discomfort or any problems. But what this will do is will open the exits and lots of the submandibular lymph nodes and all the lymph nodes around, all the ones that are listed here on the PowerPoint. Going all the way down, okay? And you repeat left and right side. And what this will do, it will drain from the sinuses, it will drain from the back of the skull, it will drain the lymph from the cranial side of things, and you should feel a sort of a reduction in pressure. So you'll start to address a number of the different things we said on the first slide there. Okay, that's really good. Thanks very much, Gus. That's great. So showing that again. Here we go. Draining, no pressure, and then getting that as long as possible all the way down. What makes you want to swallow, and if that's happening, this is a really good sign. Okay, and it'll just start. You'll start to feel things to sort of change pressure-wise all around here. Really useful, and it's quite a nice thing to help somebody with because it involves human touch and it involves something that's practically really, very, very excellent to support somebody in their health. My other advice, not for now, is to have a look at K2 and D3. That's another talk because that changes the plasticity of arteries, which will improve lymph system. And importantly here, we've only got a few minutes, 10 lymph foods to stick right to the top of the chain is beetroot, water, obviously, cranberry, leafy greens, nuts and seeds, garlic, ginger, turmeric, seaweed, citrus are your top lymph foods. So you want to get a really high quality lymph system going, this is what we need to be consuming. Doesn't matter sort of particularly in which form, although you shouldn't overboil beans, of course, try and keep them as fresh as possible. And just start chucking those into everything that you possibly can. So I yellow up my rice with turmeric. I throw a load of homegrown chopped beetroot into my salad. Lots of water down there. Cranberry juice straight to the shop, although it is high on sugar, will still help the kidneys out. So it's going to help that last lymph organ, the kidneys, that last port of call. And the kidneys are shaped like every lymph node is shaped as well. It's that sort of kidney bowl shape draining away there. Top 10 ways to help create flow. These are the very obvious top tricks you can do at home. Exercise, regular exercise, really important. The lymph is working off a muscular pump. It's not working off an electrical pump like your heart is. It relies totally on muscles contracting and smooth muscle contracting, or small amounts of smooth muscle contracting in the lymph vessels themselves. So it's really important that we can squeeze that lymph, really massage that lymph out of the muscles by walking, moving. We're not saying go out and fly around running, that's not the point. We're just saying get moving generally. Stretch things slightly beyond a normal range. So reaching out to the far corners of a room with your arms, reaching out to the far corners of a room with your toes will immediately stretch and squeeze everything along that line. Taking cold showers and hot showers, so temperature differentiations. You can get a good 5-minute cold shower in the morning. That's a very good lymph stimulus. Dry brushing with an old loofah brush like we had in the 1970s, one of those really long, thin ones, and get scratching around all of that and really stimulate the skin and those surface lymph nodes to get your lymph moving too. Drinking clean water, filtered water where possible, and avoid wearing tight clothes. We were laughing this morning that I'm not wearing any tight clothes at the moment and absolutely loving it. No bras that's limiting lymph movement. I've still got my pants on, but they're not tight, yeah? And I'm making sure I'm doing something called the foundation method as well. So getting my breath right, getting my stability right, lots of things around that. And to eat a higher volume of the foods that we've just demonstrated there. So we've got a couple of minutes and, I've got Gus there. I'm sure he'd like to add something more into that before we move on. Yeah.
Not really, no, you've said it all really. I just think, just to remember that your lymph nodes and lymphatic system follows the bloodstream, it follows the cardiovascular system. It used to be part of it and it's still part of it really, but it follows that around, it follows nerves around as well. So when you start poking around and working on people and they feel any sensitivity or tenderness, it's not quite normal really. So when your lymphatic system is struggling in certain areas, that area will become toxic, and you start to work on somebody and pushing and prodding. And if it's sensitive, then you must know there's possibly a lymphatic issue happening there, and you need to help that area clear and move along. So, but yeah, that's it really.
So one last demonstration: inside edge, outside edge of the SCM. Gently pick them up, gently. Have you ever tried to get one of those teddy bears from one of the machines with the 3-claw? You know, it goes in very, very gently, yeah? So it picks up, if you can see this here, pulls skin sac up towards the head and they go down to the top of the head and down, gently away, stimulating the lymph nodes that are tracking all the way along the back of here. That will trace you naturally behind the ear, get to the top, right to where you feel that hard skull again, as long as one knows the mastoid process, and then start again. And drain, 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 drain down. Okay, so that's us completed, I think, very much on time. Quite impressed with ourselves there, to be fair.
Oh, you should absolutely. You should be impressed for getting through all that. That's amazing. You know, I've never thought a third of the lymph is in the neck vessels. I've never ever thought that. That's crazy.
It is bonkers.
And it's so important, yeah.
And,
yeah. Absolutely crazy.
And the same, but all this time, you know, Gus and I, we're very much movement sport, biomechanics, you know, musculoskeletal, and all of that. And now that our spotlight has moved into the lymph, we're feeling, I'm feeling slightly sort of, you know, we should have spent a lot more time, you know, looking at this in previous years. But, you know, we spent a couple of years now catching up on this. So we're pretty up on it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Are there any questions?
I haven't got any questions come up. It's just I turned your screen share off because people really wanted to see a really big picture of the movement, which we couldn't quite see. So
see it again one more time.
Well, I wonder if Gus wants to show it on somebody else, or you, either or one of you. If you just do it, so go on speaker view and get a really good view so people can see really clearly. That would be fantastic.
I can try it again. Yeah.
Yeah, wonderful.
Give it a go again. Leave when I hold the camera again. Let's try and see.
Oh.
To shock myself. So let's have a look. Maybe if you get it from a slight angle there. Right, so there's the SEM lying there, sternocleidomastoid. So you start from the bottom, from collarbone side, and you work your way up to behind the ear. And as you can see, when I grab, maybe there. So I will take the sternocleidomastoid very gently. I will try and tuck in behind it very gently, and I will drag the skin. So very gently, just drag what we call skin slack when we do Bowen. So just drag the skin up, and then you apply gentle pressure. So you can see that I'm slightly lifting that muscle away from the neck, and I will then very gently create a pushing sort of sensation down, pushing movement down, and follow the sternocleidomastoid all the way to the mastoid process, and start at the bottom again. So there's the collarbone down there. I'll start at the bottom. So it's just the skin going up, and I'm not really pulling. Definitely not pinching, and it's just working my way. Take the skin up, and it's the down movement that you're after. So just the skin going up and then down movement. So you try with your thumb and very gently get your fingers behind the sternocleidomastoid. You won't actually be able to do that. There goes the dog. But that's the idea. Down. Is that a bit clearer?
Yeah, I think just having that big picture is just really helpful for people. And of course, obviously, people can just go and watch it again on YouTube and go over it because it's there. Yeah. Will be there for everybody to see. So, I mean, thank you so much. And you know, the other thing which you said, and I'd never thought of this, so thank you so much. And that was actually seeing the kidneys as the same shape as any other lymph. I go, yeah.
So body repetition, yeah. You get that in a lot of systems, yeah. It's really interesting, yeah.
Oh, we have got, wait a minute, very quickly, so I know we said we should finish. Oh, Helene says, are there any other place in the neck or head you can treat with this type of massage to help the lymph nodes?
I mean, the answer is yes, but we haven't got
all
the
over
time.
the place.
There's a whole course on it. Yes. Yeah. So it's
yeah, lymph nodes all over. Yeah.
All over, absolutely all over, and there's very specific places you can go. Yes, and that, so if you trace the lymph system and apply the same technique, you'll be on the right track.
Fantastic.
Right, especially on the collarbones as well.
Yeah, all around here.
Because this is the main exit for the lymph back into the cardiovascular system. So you do work around here, pseudocleidomastoid, but the lymph nodes all around the cheek, but around the side of the mouth, especially around the neck, back of the head as well. So yeah, there's quite a few. Like Paula says, just work your way around. Just use the same principle. Just work your way around, and just go for it. Just create movement, really.
That's absolutely brilliant, Paula and Gus. If anybody wants to know more about what they do, just go and look at safetomove.com, see what they've got on there. And as I said, you'll find them on Facebook and Insta. And if you're with us today, then we'll send you their email so you can get in touch if you're intrigued and go, what more can I do? So,
yes.
So once again, thanks so much, Paula. Thanks so much, Gus, for joining us today.
Thank you very much.
It'd be great to have you back another day to explore some of the other stuff. That would be fantastic. And
thanks for inviting us, Thinktree, Coach Rosemary.
Pleasure.
Yeah.
Pleasure. And see everybody soon again next Monday.
Thanks for attending, everyone. Nice to meet
Thank
everybody.
you. Yes, thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.